everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, How to Develop a Case for Support to Elevate Every Fundraising Appeal. I am with Kevin Wallace and Melissa Sais from campaigncouncil.org, and they're going to share their insights from being capital campaign experts on how to apply these strategies to your fundraising appeals. So I'm really excited to have them with us today. It's always a great time and a lot of great information. So yeah, I hope wherever you're calling in from or, watching from, you're comfortable and grab a drink, grab some nosh or something, and just kick back a little bit for the next hour. We'll be getting started, in the next few minutes as we wait for people to join. So in terms of housekeeping, I want you to know that this webinar is being recorded. So you'll have access to all of, you'll be able to watch it again. And we're also going to send you the slide PDF in the next couple days. And I know that there is going to be probably tons of questions today. So if you have a question as they're presenting, you can use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. And if you put your questions there, we'll be sure to get to as many as we can at the end of their presentation. But for now, I want to just welcome everyone. I'll open up the chat. And if you're interested, you can chat us in your name and where you're from and maybe your time zone, just to see where everyone's calling in from. And yeah, we'll be happy to get started in just a few minutes. So yeah, I'm East Coast right now. But I don't know where everybody else is calling in from. So we'll have to see who's the farthest away. Vancouver. Okay, nice. So that's Pacific time? 1, 11, 10, wait, 12.
I think it's Pacific time. Yeah. I'm up in Montana today, and fall has just about arrived up in what do we call this? It's not the Pacific Northwest, but it's close to the Pacific Northwest, maybe just the Northwest, but it's beautiful in Montana today.
Wow, beautiful. Yeah, I love the fall weather. Do you get to go out? Do you like to hike or anything to like see the foliage in the fall?
I was out and I had a beautiful run yesterday. We did a library project up here. Gosh, it was our first library, and I think it was 12 years ago. And the woman that the foundation director is retiring, and so I came up here to kind of bid her farewell, and it was so much fun to see all of the familiar faces from that campaign so many years ago. But I got the chance. We're right on the Yellowstone River, so they've got some beautiful paths along the river, and I was out there yesterday for a while, and it was nice to be in fall weather because back home it's still I'm from Southern Arizona, and back home it's still in the mid to upper 80s, and you're like, come on, man, it's October, let's go.
Almost there.
Please cool off.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, no, that's great. And so thoughtful of you to go support her. But yeah, it looks like
it was a neat campaign. They had absolutely no idea what they were doing and how to do it. And I think she was like the first foundation director, and she was part-time. And she's like, okay, so they tell me I need to raise $5 to $10 million. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where to go. And they've got a beautiful library, and she's now one of the better fundraisers in all of Montana. So really proud of
wow.
her.
That's excellent. You trained her up.
Yeah, exactly.
Give her some pointers. That's great. Cool. Well, it looks like we've got folks in from everywhere across the US today. Probably farthest from me, I guess, would be West Coast time. Barbados.
Wow.
Maybe that's the farthest. I don't even know where that's located on the map. Okay. All right.
Just go south and keep going, okay?
Go south and keep going. Got it. Thank you. Thank you. I'll have a geography lesson after this. Awesome. So I'm going to start kicking it off since we're 3 minutes after. So let me just get my bearings here. Yeah, so as I had mentioned, we are here today with the folks from campaigncouncil.org, Kevin Wallace and Melissa Sais. Kevin Wallace is the president and partner at campaigncouncil.org, and Melissa Sais is the vice president and partner at campaigncouncil.org. And so Kevin has over, I think, 20 years of experience with capital campaigns. And so he's done a bunch of planning studies, and he's helped people across the country raise over $200 million in their capital campaigns. And Melissa has also successfully led clients through the whole campaign planning study and their needs assessment, and has managed their capital campaign communications efforts. So combined, these are just two powerhouse folks in capital campaign planning, and I'm sure they have a wealth of information to share with you today on, developing your own case using their same strategies, case for support. But as we turn just real quick to CauseVox, in case you're new to us, I just want to introduce us a little bit. We are a digital fundraising platform, and we help you modernize your fundraising. So for those of you who are either doing capital campaigns or you just need a fundraising appeal for maybe the holiday fundraising season or any campaigns you're running, we can help you actually do that pretty easily and help you to collect all the donations on the table. Don't leave anything off the table by really modernizing your online donation form and campaign sites. So we've put our best technology into place here, and we also offer hands-on support and onboarding, as well as top-rated fundraising education through guides, templates, and webinars like today's. So I mentioned we unlock modern fundraising, and basically what that means is there are, outdated fundraising methods. Maybe it's like a static PayPal button, or something that's just clunky and really not user friendly for your donor. Maybe it's just not up to date with their preferences. We want to remind you to always stay up to date with donor preferences, and so we've incorporated branded donation pages for you. Everything's customizable, as well as giving you that automated pledge and recurring donation and enhanced mobile wallets. So if you are looking for a better donation form, whether it's on your website or on your next campaign site, I would definitely encourage you to check us out. You can schedule a pre-recorded demo. It's probably like 13 minutes, or you can also, on that same page, you can schedule a one-on-one with me, and then we can talk more about, specifically how CauseVox can work with your specific organization's needs. So I'm going to hand it over to Kevin and Melissa. And then again, if you have any questions throughout their presentation, please feel free to use the Q&A box at the bottom, and we'll be back for Q&A at the end. All right, have fun, everyone.
Great. So great to be with you all. Trying to share screen here. Are y'all seeing it there?
Yep.
Good. So I'm Melissa. It's great to be with you. We're here to talk to you today about cases for support. So we use cases for support very readily in capital campaigns to create that backbone for all the other appeals that we're going to do. And if this is a strategic process that you can use to create this case for support that will help inform all of your appeals. So a little bit about us. You saw us there, Kevin and Melissa. We are a capital campaign planning and management company. So Campaign Council, we plan and manage campaigns for nonprofits across the country. And so cases for support are something that we use every day. I'm coming to you from Albuquerque, New Mexico. So I'm also in Mountain Time Zone with Kevin for a change, and nice weather here today, cool in the morning, hot in the afternoon. So I'm kind of wearing a sweater now, but I'm going to have to take it off later today. So Kevin's in Montana today, but he comes to us from Southern Arizona. And so while our work concentrates on capital campaigns. We're not going to be talking about capital campaigns exclusively today. We're really going to be digging into the support strategies that are important to campaigns, but also to general fundraising strategies. So we want to help you think about creating this long internal document that can inform all your other communication going forward. So a little bit about our agenda today. We're going to talk about what is a case for support. We're going to talk about how to build that case, the elements that are going to go into it, and kind of how to write it, how to structure it, and then the appeals that you can create based on that case for support. And every nonprofit can benefit from a case for support. And while it's a vital part of capital campaigns, this kind of purposeful process of gathering ideas and evidence and arguments for either a particular fundraising project or for your nonprofit in general will really help you to think strategically about your messaging, about what you do and why you're doing it, and really establish those compelling reasons for donors to give to you. And so creating this case, you'll have all that information at your fingertips as you craft every appeal or solicitation materials that you need. So Kevin's going to start us off with what is a case for support. I'm going to quickly, I don't know if I can get out without messing things up. I think Kevin's going to go off camera. I'm going to stay on because I'm afraid to mess up our screen. Maybe I can do it up here. Okay,
I get it.
there.
You don't want to hit the wrong button.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I think I've done it. We don't want to be worried about connectivity issues. So we're going to go off screen for now and then come back on when we come to answer question time. So next we'll hear from Kevin about what is a case.
Thanks, Melissa. It is an authoritative, and I want to underline internal document, which is the foundation for your nonprofit's communication efforts to move people to learn about, understand, value, and give ultimately to your organization. It's long, it's detailed, it's designed to house all the information and evidence you need to make your case through your other external communication vehicles like, brochures or slide decks or websites. Its purpose is to clearly communicate the needs of your nonprofit and demonstrate how addressing those needs will ultimately benefit not only your clients, but the community or the communities you serve. The best case for support, it weaves together the image of your nonprofit, its roles in the community that you serve, and how fulfilling that role and or expanding it will benefit your clientele and your community. So I want you to think like an investor when you're producing this case for support. It's akin to what I like to think of as an investment strategy that beautifully outlines the potential donor's return on their investment. So think of the investment as their pledge to you, and the investment strategy for your nonprofit. It doesn't focus only on the needs of your organization. Rather, it focuses on how investing in your nonprofit will benefit the donor, the investor, and their return on investment, what they get out of it. It's much better than a monetary return. It's an improved community. It's moving their personal mission forward. So with a clear and compelling strategy, the document holds all the quantifiable evidence that you need to make your case for investment by a donor. What will change if your project is successful in the end? For example, how many more lives will be improved? And I want you to be honest and realistic with this. What is your objective? All right, you've got your mission, and is that to help people where they are right now? And let's say you're a day shelter for the homeless, so come in and we help you. Or are you preventing an upstream problem? Let's say your literacy, and you're trying to keep people in school, to keep them employed, to keep them being functional and contributing to society. Or maybe your nonprofit is helping to people recover from a downstream problem. For example, if you are working with people that have addiction problems. So You concisely make a passionate argument for your project and or for your nonprofit that demonstrates how investing in your nonprofit will benefit the constituents that you're serving. So whether that be where they are, or you're solving an upstream problem, or you're solving a downstream problem. You want their emotional investment too. So it's not just all facts and figures, but really with your case for support, this is not a sob story. In most of our instances, we're dealing with a constituency that's pretty local. So maybe you're in a metropolitan area or in a rural area and you need to speak exactly to them. And a lot of times when we see the super emotional pleas like the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, and you see the starving animals and the on the chains and stuff, that's an emotional appeal that works, but it works when you're dealing with a huge audience, when you've got a national campaign going on. When we're dealing a little bit more locally and we're writing our case for support, we need to be a little bit, we weave in the emotions, but we need to be generally fact driven on those sides of things. So let's go back to our agenda. We've discussed what is a case for support, and now we're going to transition over to, well, back to Melissa, who will talk to us about building the case for support. I think you might be muted, Melissa.
There I am.
There
So
you go.
building your case for support. So, case for support is really best developed through the sharing of ideas with multiple audiences. So really you want to enlist help. You want your internal staff along with community leaders and donors. You want to have the opportunity to talk with them about what you're doing, why you do it, why they love it, what can improve, all of those things to just gather that evidence. Cases for support are often generated through a feasibility study during a capital campaign. So that's when we typically generate cases for support. And that's when we go out into the community, we talk to donors, prospective donors, community leaders, and we really ask for their perspective on the organization and on its project. And really by including these external viewpoints, you're gathering information from your potential donor's perspective. So really, what is important to the donor about your organization? What resonates with them about your services in your community? How do they see your organization benefiting the area? If you strictly work with internal perspective, you might miss out on those points that are most important to your community and that really inspire your donors. So an example of this is we had a library that we were working with up in Montana, a different library than Kevin went to visit this time. But, they were really excited about putting casters or wheels onto all their shelving so that they could, reconfigure the space as needed. And this was going on during COVID. And so there was a lot of, interest in 6 feet of separation between people, those kinds of things. And so the library was really excited about, we're going to put the shelves on casters, and we're going to be able to do all these things. We took that out to the community, and the community was not that excited about casters. They were more excited about children's programs and a maker space and more computer space. And so it was important for the library to understand that so they could work into their messaging all of those things that were important to the project, but really highlight those things that the community was most interested in. And so through the feasibility study process, the nonprofit gets that internal and external input on its image, on its role in the community, and how it benefits the community. And then these elements all become key parts of that case for support for that specific project during a capital campaign fundraising feasibility study. So if you're working outside of a feasibility study, you can follow the same process that we use to develop case for support for sort of your general case for support. So the way that works, typically you just start with gathering input. And that starts with interviews. So if you're developing this case for your organization in general, outside of a feasibility study, you want to consider interviewing some of your most engaged donors and volunteers. You really want to uncover their views on your leadership, your mission, your services, why they support you. This work will really help you get that honest outside perspective and strengthen your case. So you really want to speak to at least 3 to 5 of your established donors or top prospects. Of course, in a feasibility study, we're talking to 50 plus people, but for your scaled down work to develop your case for support, at least 3 to 5 of those established donors and top prospects. Ask to sit down with them, meet virtually. We like to meet in person as often as we can, and ask them about your organization. I want to share with you a couple of questions that you might consider using in these kind of interviews. So what are the strengths and weaknesses of the organization? Get their feedback on that. How is the organization seen in the community? How are you perceived? How is the leadership viewed? Do people know your executive director? Do people know your board members? Are they established people in your community? What do you support? Why do you support the organization? So get an understanding of why people care about what you're doing. What about its mission is important to you? What about the organization's mission is important to you? Do you have any concerns about the organization or about any services or projects? And then what is the most important service the organization provides? So really you're looking for that feedback that you can then take and incorporate into what you're creating. So taking their language, their ideas and incorporating those things into what you're creating, in this case for support. And so then you also want to gather all of the historical data that you can, fundraising priorities, cost estimates, strategic plans, mission and vision statements, all of those things that will add evidence to your case for support. That's going to shape what you, along with those interviews, you're going to have the facts and figures to go along with the anecdotal information that you have. And then you also want to assemble a team of people, an input group, 10 to 15 people from inside and outside the organization who are close to your organization, who will help you assemble and go through this information and provide input, just to have a lot of perspectives to help create the best case that you can. And let's see if I can get us to switch. Then once you've interviewed, you've gathered data, you've created this team. Now you've got to narrow all that down into this long document that you're going to create. And so a few structural things to do to help in that narrowing down process. So from that group of 15 that you've assembled, choose 3 to 5 people who you can count on to work closely with you during the writing and editing process. So people who can collaborate with you, who can go through drafts. And so you want to plan for multiple drafts of this document. You want to go through it with your small group multiple times, and then a round or two with your larger group of 15. And then finally, you want to do some wider sharing. You want to share that case with your greater leadership group, your board. You want to build buy-in across your organization for this document that's going to inform all the other messaging that you create. So you've gathered the information, you've assembled a team, and then now you're narrowing down the information, and you need to think about kind of the needs of your organization and how those translate into benefits for your community. And Kevin's going to talk about that now.
Yeah, and before I jump into that, just real quick, make sure that you get as much buy-in as possible, as Melissa was just talking about, because too often we'll come in and a client will have a case for support, or they've been working on a case for support and they have not sought community input, or they have not spoken to their staff about it and really gotten a broad group of individuals contributing to it. So I'm emphasizing, please, share it, get it out there, and make sure that you've got kind of a 360-degree look at it. Couple of stories about different types of cases for support that we've worked on and how we align needs and benefits. We had a client in Kentucky, serious problem, an ice storm in the late spring. It fell a tree onto a housing unit for at-risk teenage women. The unit was destroyed. Thank goodness no one was hurt. But rebuilding the house, repairing the house was going to cost them about $2 million. And then right around the same time, we had another client, a home healthcare agency in rural New Mexico. They came to us, their executive director and her board. They were losing market share to for-profit home healthcare agencies, so they wanted to diversify their offerings. That community, again, relatively rural, but I don't know, they had like 15 or 20,000 people there. They didn't have a dedicated hospice house. So people who needed inpatient hospice care had to make a 1 hour drive down a windy 2-lane mountain road to get their loved one the care that they needed. And the director wanted to build a 6-bed hospice house, and that cost was going to be around $3 million. So both organizations had needs that could be easily quantified. In Kentucky, Ice Storm left about 30 young women sleeping in cots in the gym. These ladies had horrific pasts. You know, they had been abandoned. They had experienced physical and sexual abuse. They had drug addictions, and now they had lost the one home that made them feel safe. And then in New Mexico, the lack of a hospice house, specifically an inpatient hospice house, meant the agency was turning away multiple patients every year who needed that type of care. In Kentucky, our case for support focused on helping these young women become happy and productive. In New Mexico, we were ensuring that terminally ill patients and their loved ones had a positive as possible end of life experience. So these benefits are what drove these campaign successes rather than the specific needs of a new roof or a new structure for the organization. We focused on how addressing those needs benefited their region. We helped each of them construct their case, showed them those cases to potential donors, i.e., investors, and how their gift or investment would help their community. And coming back to the investment, that was their ROI. So that's the goal that we're shooting for. All right, going back over to our agenda, we've defined the case for support. We've talked to you about how to build your case for support. So now let's transition over to what are actually the elements, what are the different parts that are going to be in your case for support. So we got a bunch of bullets here, and I'm just gonna pop through them with you. We start with overview. Just, who are we? How did we get here? So a brief historic overview of your nonprofit. When did it open? Who does it serve? How does it benefit the community? And then perhaps some accolades of your constituents in there. And then your mission and your vision. Hopefully most of you have got that unless you're relatively new. I want you to list out your administration and your board of directors. And when we go back and we look at those questions that Melissa was saying you should be asking people while developing your case for support, you want people to see who your leadership and your governance is comprised of. And then that way they can start making some different associations with those leaders. We also want you to list your challenges, your current situation. So what operating, programmatic, or infrastructure shortfall brought about the nonprofit's desire to seek additional revenue? So we're going to use data to illustrate the scope of the problem. This is your need. So we need more space, we need more programs, we need more staff. So that's your challenge. And then next we talk about opportunity, which is going to be the same as the solution to the current situation. How are we going to resolve the issue or issues? If this is a general case for support, include information on each of your programs and their impact. Once the money is raised, how will the nonprofit's users and the service region benefit from meeting that goal? This is your opportunity and or solution. And then we start getting a little bit into the numbers. What is your project and what is your business plan? And business plan isn't always needed, but if you're looking at increasing your staffing and or your expenses, you're going to need to show financial readiness and sustainability to be able to do that. So I want you to include those in there, that specifically being a business plan, if what you're trying to do is going to create an increase in your company overhead, you're going to have to account for that, and you want to do it in your case for support. Project timeline, when are you going to start? When you want to end? People want to be able to put some parameters on this and know just what you're going for and when they can expect to see some success or change. And then finally, the summary. And when we're dealing with the summary, what is the overview? What is the challenge? What is the opportunity? And how, when we meet all of these, whether it be for our annual or our capital campaign or a special project, maybe it's an endowment campaign you're doing. Why does this project matter? You want to focus more on benefits. Remember, keep the emotions minimum. You can sneak some in there, but focus on benefits and how you can, and this is the area where you show their donor how, when they help you find the solution, you're going to benefit your constituents and your community. So that kind of wraps it all up. All right, let's talk now about the tone of our case for support. It can be written, of course, in the first or third person, although in our experience, writing in the third person gives it a more objective tone. Many nonprofits err on focusing too much of their case on emotion. And here we come back to the emotion. The communication that stems from the case for support can have an emotional tone, but it really needs to focus more on the benefits and how an investment, i.e., a gift, a pledge, is going to move the needle for your organization and therefore for the constituents that you're serving. The donor's return on their investment is in helping your nonprofit realize a solution to a need. So use emotion to get their attention, but use facts and figures to get them to invest. Again, the case for support, it's not intended to be a standalone external document. It provides building blocks for everything else, for your newsletters, for your brochures, for your grant requests and video scripts. It's a depot of information that can be pulled from depending on your needs. For example, if you need to write a grant request, I promise you, if you follow these guidelines for the elements to include in your case, pretty much everything's going to be there, and all you need to do is cut and paste, and then of course weave into that request the mission and vision of the grantor that you're writing to. So everything is there. You weave in the elements of the grantor's uh, giving desires or requirements, and boom, you've pretty much got everything you need there. All right, let's go back to Melissa, and she's going to talk to us about continuous improvement.
Right. So this is a living document. Of course, your organization is always changing, and so your case for support needs to keep up with those changes. So refinement, you want to continue to involve your stakeholders, continue with that group that you established, or create, add people to it, subtract people, whatever makes sense. You may have to pivot at times, you may have to add or subtract things from your case for support. You want to continue to involve those stakeholders so that you can continue to incorporate their language and perspectives and help your case to really hit home with the widest audience. So continuous refinement of that. And then buy-in, as Kevin said, you always want to be working towards improving and expanding that buy-in. And really, the process of developing and revisiting your case allows you to build that buy-in because you're asking people to look at it and review it. And also, just continues to create vision and excitement for your organization. And, we're creating this piece that's going to help us inform inform our community and our donors about our organization. And so a good way to just keep things, keep the excitement level high. And then revisions, don't create it and let it sit on a shelf. You want to revisit and revise as often as your organization changes and grows. So again, not a piece to create and then set aside. It's something that should be informing you all along the way. So, kind of bringing it all together, the case for support should answer many questions for you, for your team, for your eventual audience. So what are you raising money for? What are your most important services that you're providing? If you're successful in raising funds, what will that greater impact be? How will that improve your community? So those are all the kinds of questions that you should be able to answer from within your case. Through the process of creating this document, you're going to define your purpose and your objectives. It's going to help you to establish that clear vision for your organization, and again, build that excitement and buy-in internally and externally for your organization. And then with kind of a centralized set of ideas and language and evidence for your organization, you're going to be equipped to communicate in a very organized and consistent and thoughtful way. So we believe that creating this kind of overarching document that you can live from and pull from as you need it will really just help your communications flow more easily when you need to come up with something new, when you need to find another piece of your case to share with your organization. It should all be in there in that document. Just a few examples of cases, if you're interested in seeing cases for support that have been developed for capital campaigns, just to get some idea of the structure and the flow. You can find those on our website, campaigncouncil.org/free-resources. We have a library capital campaign and a healthcare capital campaign case for support in there if you would like to see those. So we've talked about what is a case, building your case, those elements of your case. Now we want to think a little bit about the appeals that can come from the case for support that you've developed. You can really use this case as the foundation or the backbone for those appeals or other solicitation materials that you're going to use to educate and cultivate your donors and prospective donors, and really help you make strong fundraising asks. So let's take a look at some of those materials. These are some of the materials that you might create based on your case. So appeals, so any kind of appeal letter or email, any of those types of things. Your case is going to lay out all the aspects of your organization. So you might choose to focus on one of those, something that's important to the particular audience that you're reaching out to with a specific appeal. I was trying to think of examples, and a school, maybe you're reaching out to alumni. Maybe you've narrowed in on your medical or science alumni. Maybe you present to them information on your STEM program. So zoom in on something that's important to that group. And from your case, you can draw things that are data related, historic related, impact related. All of those things should be there. Or in appeals, you might lead an audience through a series of appeals. So maybe, again, if you're a school, you might have an appeal that focuses on STEM, or then on arts, and then on athletics, those types of things. So your case that you've developed, you should be able to draw from that in creating these appeals. And it should be well organized for you if you've done that foundation work. Brochure, you can also, create directly from your case your brochure, narrow down your case into that concise brochure copy that creates a compelling case for your organization. Of course, you're going to include photos and infographics and things like that in a brochure, but drawing from that case can just have it all organized for you. Newsletters, drawing, you need a newsletter idea. Okay, draw from the case. It should all be there for you. Video script, you can draft a video that follows your case, lay out your background, your challenge, your solutions, and how they impact your community. And then that's something you can use on your website and your social media, those kinds of things. Website
Hey, Melissa,
copy. Yes.
I want to interrupt because it reminds me of a funny story last night. I was sitting around. So we have a client Billings, Montana built a new library. I think it was 11 or 12 years ago, and so we were all saying goodbye to the foundation director, and kind of recalling stories of our year. I think I was out here with them for a couple of years, raising about $6 million. But I was talking with a group, and they were reminding me of what a pain in the butt I had been when we were looking at doing their video script. And they wanted to bring in like this. So I'm in Billings, Montana, and this famous Montanan, I won't get into names, but didn't really have a tie to Billings specifically. But somebody in Billings knew this gentleman and wanted them to be like the spokesperson on our video script. And my argument to them was, this individual has nothing to do with libraries or with Billings. So why do we want them in our video? And I ended up winning, but I didn't end up irritating some people on the way there. But the reason that I bring that up, other than it was fun to recollect it last night with this group, is videos are a great way to really tell your story, and again, needs and benefits, and pulling it from your case for support. But when you're telling your story, have your community telling your story, have your local leaders, or have your constituents, or your board members telling the story, and don't pull in people that are I don't want to say meaningless to your community, but they're not you. They're, sure, they're a spokesperson, and sure, spokespeople are great when you're dealing with a national audience. But when you're dealing with just a local project, keep it local and use local people in these things, and script them out and tell them exactly what to say based on what you know is relevant, based on all of this time that you've spent on your case for support. So I'm sorry, I messed up your flow, Melissa, but it just got me chuckling when I was remembering last night, and all the good times, and sometimes the tense times that we had together and doing this campaign out here.
Right, right. It's a series of ups and downs, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Right. So along with that website copy, if you look at your website and say, we really need to beef up, some section of our website, well, draw on your case for support. What are some pieces out of it that can help to inform that copy? And then social media posts, we're working hard to, keep posts flowing in social media. There should be elements throughout your case that you can draw from to create posts. So historical information, data, needs and benefits, all of those things, it's really a library there to pull those, small snippets out for those social media posts. And then, of course, Kevin talked about grant applications. So, the case for support should gather all of that information that grant foundations want in their grant applications, and you should have easy access to the language and the data and the information that you're gonna need to put into those grant applications. So those are just some of the things that you can draw on from taking the time to create this foundational internal document that you're going to then use to expand upon in these other kinds of materials that you're going to use to share information about your organization and to make those appeals to your donors. And again, this kind of shows the importance of revising and refining as your organization changes and grows. If you're going to be drawing from this, you want to have the most up-to-date information in your case as possible. So it's a document that you're going to want to revise and revisit at least yearly, at least have a good group of people take a look at it once a year to say what's changed, what do we need to add, what have we learned over the past year that's important to include in this case, all those types of things. So those are some ideas on how to use it to go forward. And that kind of wraps up our formal explanation of it, but we'd love to answer any questions that you all might have. And I think that I will turn my video back on and stop sharing this screen and see if Jenna has any questions she wants to share with us.
Yeah, thank you so much, Melissa and Kevin. That was a wonderful overview, detailed overview. So yeah, I'm sort of just curious, like from our participants here, um, has anybody actually like developed a case for support before? You can just like chat that in, like yes, no, just to get a sense of where you guys are coming from. And if anybody has, Hannah, yes. So you have some history of this already. Yes, yes. So we have a few people that have already like dabbled in this mid-development on my first one. Nice. Um,
I'd be curious to ask too, Jen, are you all updating them on a fairly regular basis to kind of keep them as a living document rather than something that's just, well, collecting dust, quite frankly, and hopefully there's a bunch of yeses to this because they are exceptionally useful, but they also can be forgotten. And as your organization kind of changes and grows and or refocuses, we can forget to come back to those and say, you know what, we need to re-up this. And the other thing is hopefully um, one of the wonderful things about a case for support, if it's done correctly, is you get new board members, boom, set it down in front of them and say, this is who we are. And once you go through this, let's talk a little bit more about it. So it's a great repository for everything cool about your nonprofit.
yeah. Yeah, it seems like an important tool to use to get people on board with the mission and everything that you're trying to accomplish. Like, yeah, does anybody have any like initial reactions to or initial thoughts regarding any one piece of the presentation here today? I don't know if you want to put up the slide with our like the different areas that you discussed about the categories of developing the case. But if anybody had any questions on any of those topics, we can, dive a little deeper. Yeah, the agenda, I guess, like the case itself, building the case, the elements of a case, or your actual appeal. So maybe, yeah, if you had any questions, Kevin and Melissa would be happy to answer them. I know they're here, they're at your service. It's a free opportunity, free consultation. So you'll wanna, yeah, if you can think of any, I'd be happy to share them with Kevin and Melissa. I guess maybe for, my own question would be, like, do you have one like the biggest tip for somebody just getting started with this? So maybe it's their first time writing a case. What would be your number one tip to begin the process?
Yeah, unfortunately, what we see more times than not is an executive director will go into his or her office and close the door and write it. And it'll be again, no, I've been here for 10 years. I know every ounce of everything about, every dark corner and skeleton in the closet and service. And so I'm just going to bang this thing out. And as Melissa said with that example with the library, thinking that, and again, I love librarians, but only a librarian is going to really think that shelves on wheels is going to be a super cool idea for, for a campaign. And sure enough, the community came back and said, yeah, I don't care so much about shelves on coasters. You got to go out there and you've got to get the opinions of your donors. You got to go out there and get the opinions of your constituents, so your users. And then please don't forget your staff. I mean, it's the number of times that I come into situations or Melissa goes into situations and you can just see the staff over there and they're not happy about this at all.
Mm.
Like, what happened? Well, our CEO or our GM or our ED never asked us or never told us or hasn't informed us of any of these things that are going on. And then every now and again they put something in front of us and tell us that this is the way things are going to occur. It just doesn't work, man. You got to go out there. You've got to embrace the extra work and the frustration that is going to occur with asking for lots of opinions, because if you don't, it's going to come back around and bite you, because inclusivity, yay, do it. Go out there and get in. And I was at a board meeting over the weekend with a client of ours that we're doing a feasibility study with, and they work with within within autism. So they're trying to provide training, et cetera, for individuals with autism. And theirs is a very specific niche. It's with individuals that have autism that are also either nonverbal or not reliably verbal. And their board probably has 20 plus board members on it. And two of them are nonverbal individuals with autism. And they're in the board meeting and they're participating at the level that they're able to participate. And it's such a great feeling just seeing that much inclusivity and getting buy-in from a wide variety of individuals. So this case for support development is no different. Make yourself go out and sit down with your donors and with your constituents and with your staff and get their feedback on it, because it's going to make for a much better document in the end.
Yes, thank you. Wow, that's an incredible story with that one board. But I don't know if you saw Bridget's question in the chat. How would you suggest a new nonprofit research potential donors to appeal to? In this case, it's an org whose mission is to provide services for people experiencing homelessness.
A new nonprofit research potential donors to appeal to. All right. So I'm going to make a couple of assumptions, and that is that within your community, you've got other nonprofit organizations that are going to have donor walls and or annual what do you call it when they send out their annual updates for their organization, and that's going to have a list of their donors. Here's the cool thing about philanthropists. They don't hide from you. Now, you can say, yeah, there are the anonymous donors, and there's the individual that, gave $6 million to the hospital when they died. And okay, I get it. There are anonymous donors and there are people that give wonderful gifts when they pass. However, that's not what you can count on. And that is such a tiny fraction of the number of philanthropists in your community. Most people give because they're asked. They want recognition, and they want you to succeed. So go to other nonprofits, whether that be online or literally visiting with them. And I'm not even ever very sneaky about taking pictures of donor walls. I just do it, and there you've got it. But you can also usually find these things online. There are also, and Melissa and I and our other team member were pretty adept at working with the creepy wealth screening software that's out there that you can subscribe to, and literally just put in names of nonprofits in your area to figure out who's giving to them. And you can research specific individuals and find out what their giving interests are. So there is so much data out there available to all of us, and it's not even terribly expensive. It's a little bit expensive, but in order for you to identify with and figure out who you should be reaching out to, there's the personal approach of just going places and looking at their donor walls, but there's also the online approach that you can use and just kind of see who's out there and giving to it. And homelessness, you know, it's such a huge issue. And what are you dealing with there? Are you dealing with just a day respite? Are you trying to give them housing? Are you trying to feed them? Are you trying to give them tools to get out of homelessness? And all of those different areas have different donor interests. We do a fair amount of work with the Salvation Army, and they work the entire spectrum of homelessness. but it's amazing how many donors they don't want to give to feeding. They want to give specifically to training, or they want to give to long-term housing. So you're also going to have to narrow it down a little bit more within homeless services. Um, how are you specifically addressing it?
Mhm. That's a great point. The specificity of donor involvement. Yeah, thank you. That was very helpful. How long does this whole process take from like beginning to end to the development of developing a case?
Yeah, if you're doing it through a feasibility study, it's months and months because we're not just doing a case for support development. We're doing a lot of other things to get ready for a capital campaign. If you're doing it, um, just that's your one purpose, you're going to have to line up, let's say, 15 to 20 interviews with individuals. That's time consuming, but you can get that done within about a month, and then about another month to develop it. Now, I say that, and believe me, I understand every one of you wears about six different hats, and developing a case for support is never going to make itself up to that level of urgency that, the staff member quitting, the bills needing to get paid, the board member having a problem with something. You've got a fire, if not five fires to put out every day. So the problem is that while it shouldn't take you more than 2 months to do it, realistically, it's going to take you 3 to 4 to 5 months to do it, just because it's one of those tasks that keeps getting, moved over to the side of your desk as you deal with other issues. But get a broad contingency of people to talk to. Again, donors, maybe some users, some board members, obviously, and then staff. Go talk to them. Melissa gave you those questions. Be on it. Encourage people to be honest with you, because one of my problems with doing a kind of a do it yourself case for support is people might be too nice to you. And I say that in all, you know, with all empathy, but no, Jenna's so sweet. I don't want to tell her that her board is stinky. That would hurt her feelings. But that's the sort of input that you want. You want honesty. And the nice thing about bringing in a third party is uh, the interviewees are going to be much more frank with them about their feelings about the image of your organization, or the strength of your board, or the programs, and whether or not there's too much overlap with other organizations out there. So there is a little bit of bias that might creep into it, which is why you want to interview several people. And yeah, it just takes a little bit of time.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah, I would add, putting in that time on the front end, developing the case, can really help things in the future. I do a lot of communication work with our clients, and so we do a monthly newsletter when we're in a campaign, and coming up with ideas every month to add to that newsletter sometimes gets hard. Of course, you have sort of the standard ones, how much have we raised, who's the important donor who we can profile, but there's always elements of the case that you want to include in the newsletter as well. So being able to go to that long document and say, oh, okay, this month we can focus on this piece, and next month that piece. It just really helps organize all that information. And so really spending that time up front, I think, is valuable in saving you time later on. So
Yes, I love that. And all of the insights here today. It sounds like our participants are going to have some great material to work through later later this week, or next week. Hopefully they can get on it soon. But yeah, if anyone has any additional questions, we do still have a few minutes left. But I will just put their email here. I can put that email in the chat if you want to reach out to Melissa or Kevin. And sorry, I'm just typing that info@campaigncouncil.org, right? Awesome. So you can email them if you have any questions. I'm sure, if you wanted to work with somebody directly, I don't know if they're, accepting clients now, but maybe you can just reach out to them. I want to thank everybody again for being with us today. And then just on the CauseVox side, again, this is what I mentioned earlier. You can book a demo with us, or you can subscribe to our blog for more free resources. We have a webinar coming up on November 1st and about how to win those high level donors. So you'll want to check out for that. And then if you have any additional questions, you can email us at support@causevox.com. So yeah, thank you again, Melissa and Kevin. This has been wonderful as always. And yeah, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.